All right, let's dive right in. We're going to break down a really powerful wealth strategy that founders like, believe it or not, Walt Disney have used to turn their business revenue into real personal wealth. It's all about escaping a trap that catches most entrepreneurs.
So, let me ask you something straight up. Your business crushed it last year. Maybe it brought in $1 million in revenue. That feels amazing, right? But take a look at your personal bank account. How much of that million is actually sitting there for you? I mean, not for payroll, not for taxes, not for paying off some vendor, but for you.
Look, if the answer is, not nearly enough, you are so not alone. You might be stuck in what we call the business owner's trap. It's this super frustrating place to be where you have high revenue on paper, but in reality, your personal cash flow is just low.
And that's what we call the cash flow trap. It feels like every single dollar that comes in the front door goes right back out the back door to keep the business running. You're covering debt, you're making payroll, you're paying all the expenses, and it's a constant grind that stops you, the owner, from actually building your own wealth.
But what if I told you that some of the most iconic, world-changing businesses, I'm talking Disneyland, McDonald's, they might not even exist today if their founders hadn't found a way to break free from this exact trap. And they did it using a very, very unlikely financial tool.
So let's wind the clock back to the 1940s. Walt Disney has this absolutely brilliant, grand vision for a theme park. But when he goes to the banks for a loan, you know what they did? They turned him down, flat. They basically told him his idea was foolish and refused to give him a single dime. So what did he do? Did he give up? No way! This is the whole key. Instead, he borrowed against his own life insurance policy. Think about that. He became his own bank, used his own capital, and built Disneyland from the ground up. And this isn't just a one-off story. The same exact thing happened with Ray Kroc at McDonald's. He desperately needed cash for the Ronald McDonald marketing campaign, a huge move for the company, and again, the bank said no. They told him he was already way too leveraged with debt.
So he pulled from the same playbook. Kroc borrowed against not one, but two of his life insurance policies. He used that money to pay his team and launched the campaign that helped turn McDonald's into the global giant it is today.
Okay, so how does this actually work for a business owner like you today? Well, the modern version of this strategy uses a really specific tool called an Indexed Universal Life Policy, or an IUL. It's an incredible hybrid approach to both growing and accessing your money.
To really get the core idea, you got to think like one of the best investors of all time, Warren Buffett. He has two simple rules. Rule number 1, don't lose money. And rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. This whole strategy is built around that one powerful idea.
You know, typically we think we have two places to park our money. There are fixed accounts like a bank, where your money is super safe but gets you pretty much zero growth. Then you've got variable accounts like the stock market, where you have a shot at high growth, but you also run the risk of losing it all. Each one has a pretty major flaw, right?
Well, this index strategy gives you a third way, and this is the big aha moment. When the market goes up, your money gets to participate in those gains, usually up to a certain limit or cap. But, and this is huge, when the market goes down, your principal is protected by a 0% floor. You literally don't lose a penny. You get the upside without the downside.
So how does the money inside one of these policies actually grow? It's pretty straightforward. First, you pay a premium. A small part of that covers the cost of insurance, but the rest, the majority of it, goes into what's called a cash value account. Think of this as your savings component, and it grows completely tax-free based on that index strategy we just talked about.
And here is the absolute game changer for entrepreneurs. This cash value, it becomes your own personal tax-free line of credit. You can access it whenever you want with no penalties, no annoying credit checks, and no strict repayment terms. You are in total control of your money.
Okay, so that's the theory. Theory is great, but let's see how this plays out in the real world. I want to walk you through a quick case study of a business owner. We'll just call him John, who used this exact strategy to totally transform his finances.
So John is 42. He owns a successful trucking business. On paper, he is killing it, $1.5 million in revenue. But in reality, he's got just 20 grand in the bank and $300,000 in business debt. He is totally stuck in that cash flow trap. So he decides to start a new plan, putting $50,000 a year into an IUL policy.
And this is where John starts acting as his own bank. 5 years in, he needs a new truck. Now, instead of going to a bank and begging for a high-interest loan, he just borrows $60,000 from his own policy. Then, 10 years in, business gets a little slow. He borrows $100,000 to cover payroll, keeping his company and his team afloat without going a penny further into debt.
So what did having all this control and flexibility actually create for John in the long run? Let's get to the final numbers, because this is where the true power of this strategy just becomes crystal clear.
All right, so over the course of 10 years, John contributed a total of $500,000 into his policy. That was his initial investment into building his own personal banking system.
Now let's fast forward to retirement. From that initial $500,000, John is projected to be able to take out an absolutely staggering $2.8 million. And get this, it's all tax-free retirement income. That's the power of uninterrupted compound growth when you're in control.
And it doesn't even stop there. On top of all that retirement income, after he passes away, the policy still provides a $1 million completely tax-free death benefit to his family. This isn't just about retirement, it's about creating real, lasting, generational wealth. I want to leave you with this really powerful idea from Nelson Nash, who is a pioneer of this concept. He said that you either borrow money from a bank and pay them interest, or you use your own cash and you give up all the interest you could have earned. The biggest expense is the interest we pay or the interest we lose. So the real question is, why not control that whole banking equation yourself?